I'm Don Frazier.
I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And we're doing the Constitution line by line. And now we're into the Civil War amendments.
Yes, we are. The 14th Amendment.
14th Amendment in particular, and there's a lot of baggage in this one. When was it proposed?
It was proposed June 13th, 1866.
Okay, so this is during Reconstruction, but it's when we're making the shift to congressional Reconstruction and away from presidential Reconstruction, which we'll probably have a chance to talk about here shortly.
And it was ratified 1868.
Okay.
And so we're talking about the presidency of Andrew Johnson.
Yes, and we're also talking about a required amendment to be ratified in order for states to be readmitted.
Yes.
Just like the 13th Amendment.
Yes. And what we're going to do, since there's so much in the 14th Amendment, we're going to break it up into a couple different sections and clauses and all that
Probably
stuff.
take about 6 different episodes to get all the way through it.
Right. But the 14th Amendment is incredibly important to an understanding of civil rights.
Yes.
And
the fact that the federal government now makes it part of its purview.
Right. And one of the basic things to understand before we get into this is that most of the Bill of Rights, we're talking about our personal rights and freedoms.
Correct.
When we get to the 14th Amendment, there's a shift, and now we're talking about us and our rights and privileges as members of a group.
Yes.
So you can't, to understand the 14th Amendment, you can't look at yourself as an individual. You have to look at yourself as, well, Don and I would look at ourselves as white males, for example, or you're a veteran, or you're a minor, or whatever group you want to be a member of that you're a member of. That's how you have to look at the 14th Amendment.
So this
looks at you as a member of a group.
Is this the launch of identity politics?
I'll leave that to other people.
Okay.
Because that's a loaded question. Are we ready?
Total dodge.
Okay.
Yes, read it.
We're going to do part of Section 1 right now. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States.
So you're born here.
You're born here, you're a citizen, not just a citizen of the United States, you're also a citizen of a specific state.
That's right. So this then starts to define citizenship as a federal jurisdiction.
Right.
In the old days, it was a state jurisdiction. And the issue became, well, are emancipated slaves, freedmen,
Right, that's what we're talking about.
Are they now citizens? And short answer is they are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of southern states were going to have a hard time with this because you have people that have been kept in a state of infantile ignorance. I mean, slaves were not educated.
Right.
They were kept in the dark. They had limited contact with the outside world.
Couldn't read or write.
Couldn't read or write. They didn't have the fundamental tools necessary for a traditional read on being a citizen of a republic.
Mm-hmm.
And so how come they should be citizens until they could be brought up to having the minimum requirements of being a citizen of a republic? And this amendment says it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It basically says the minimum requirement to be a citizen is to be born here.
Well, what if you cross over Donald Trump's wall and have your baby here? Is that baby a citizen?
Yes, it is.
Isn't that amazing? So this is kind of unique. The United States is fairly unique in this regard.
Yeah, most countries are more stringent about that.
Correct.
But we're not the only one who does it, though.
Well, what are the other countries
I unfortunately, I don't know. Now that I said it, I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But there are other countries where if you're born there, you are a citizen also.
But the majority of countries follow the bloodline.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are citizens, then you're a citizen.
Right. And the United States, by the way, does that. So even if you're not born in the United States,
correct,
if one of your parents was a citizen, you're a citizen.
Yeah. So this is actually aimed at making sure that these 4 million emancipated people are in fact citizens, which means that all of a sudden they're enfranchised. They have other civil rights that are protected.
No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States.
That's it. So all of a sudden, guess what? The master, the former overseer, are equal citizens with the former slave.
There's no getting around it. That was the clear intent of this amendment. It's not legislation.
But part of the collateral effect is,
well, a lot of people didn't like it.
And latitude determines your citizenship. If you're born this side of the Rio Grande, you're a citizen.
Correct. And if you're on the other side, you're not.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. Okay. This question still continues to this day. You brought up children who are born here,
sure,
even though their parents are not citizens. And geography, in essence, is destiny in this thing. And, also parents also determine it as well.
Yeah, I mean, my brother used to work at the consulate in Frankfurt, and a big part of his job was registering children that were born in Germany to American parents. So.
Yeah. So there's about 2 years ago, there was a nasty fight about this taking place in the political arena over the definition of citizenship. And does this mean exactly what it says? And there is actually surprisingly little case law that's gone before the Supreme Court. And there was one case involving a man who was Chinese.
So this is immigration issues.
This is immigration issues, of course. And there was one man who was Chinese, and there was questions whether, in fact, it means exactly what it says. And some people have interpreted that decision to mean, well, yeah, it means if you're born here, you're a citizen here, but are you subject to the jurisdiction thereof if you were born here but you're here illegally? And what it's interpreted to mean today, and, just using the words of the Constitution right here, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, is that anybody who is here is subject to the jurisdiction of American laws, with the exception of those who are here under diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you are here illegally, you still have to obey the laws. You can be arrested.
Yeah.
If you are here and you have diplomatic immunity, well, you can get arrested, but do you have to pay the fine for your traffic law? No. You can just go back home.
Yeah.
So who is subject to this? Anybody who's here.
If they draw a breath.
If they draw a breath, unless they're here under diplomatic cover.
And I think it's interesting, too, that part of the intention of this amendment was to mobilize a new constituency in the South to help bring about the aims of Reconstruction.
Right.
And this newly mobilized constituency will be African American.
Yeah. In the context of the times, it was a pretty radical proposal. And you think about the arguments about who should vote and who shouldn't vote. Well, the 14th Amendment comes along and says, well, hey, if you're born here, reach the right age, you can vote. It's a pretty broad thing they've got here.
It is. An interesting aside, during the U.S. war with Mexico, there was a move to annex Mexico to the United States.
Okay.
And the resistance to that was the only time really during that time period that you saw northern and southern interest on the same side. And Southerners weren't real crazy about it because they didn't know exactly what that was going to do to the population, and it was going to exacerbate slavery issues, things like that. Northerners weren't crazy about it because it was going to water down the population and make places like New England less relevant. If all of a sudden you have all these folks. Neither side could figure out, well, if we annex Mexico, are Mexicans now going to be American citizens? And that came up with annexing places like California,
Right.
New Mexico. There wasn't that many. So everybody was saying, man, we can absorb that many, and it's not going to really affect the demographics of the nation. But if we try to annex all of Mexico, all of a sudden we have a hybrid state, and it's going to be strange.
Yeah, if that were ever to happen, but I kind of
Well, I'm saying back in
back in the
1848.
day, yeah. I mean, in a more recent time, back when I was in college, there was some talk about annexing, believe it or not, part of Canada.
Oh, sure. Well, that was because they were all getting mad at
Each other.
and the
Yeah.
Quebecois were saying, we're never really been part of y'all. And
That's right.
so then what do you do with New Brunswick and Nova Scotia? They're out there on the Atlantic hanging by themselves.
We'll take them, and we'll also take the western provinces,
we'll take
too.
those prairie provinces,
Yeah.
too.
And we'll just have Quebec right in the middle.
Yeah.
So,
Anyhow, it'll be interesting to see how this particular amendment gets applied in the future.
yes, indeed. Okay, so what we've done is we've laid out the beginnings of this amendment.
That's right.
There's more to come.
There's more to come next time.